So, Hall of Fame election day was yesterday, and we found out that nobody this year was enshrined into Cooperstown. However, we didn't have an induction ceremony last year during the summer because of COVID. So, we'll still get the Derek Jeter opportunity this time around. And here with us right now to talk a little Hall of Fame, some baseball and beer, because it's been busy. I got to tell you, the last 7 days between free agent signings and the Hall of Fame, there's a lot to cover right now with Mr. Jay Jaffe, who's joining us as always from his home in Brooklyn. Jay, welcome back. Good to have you on. And was yesterday's voting results of nobody getting in exactly what you expected heading into the Hall of Fame voting day?
Yes, pretty much. I think it was pretty clear by the beginning of the month, by the time people sent off their ballots, based on the conversations and based on the sample size of the published ballots at the Hall of Fame ballot tracker, that this was very likely to be a shutout. We were braced for that yesterday. And honestly, it doesn't feel anticlimactic at all. It feels like this is the result of having a slate where the top four candidates were extremely polarizing, in a lot of ways couldn't stay out of their own way, particularly when it comes to the top returning candidate, Kirk Schilling, and the top up-and-coming candidate, Omar Vizquel, both of whom hit significant roadblocks.
Now, I want to get to, the stories about, Bonds, Clemens, Schilling, Vizquel, all that in a moment. But first, before we do, there were 14 blank ballots turned in. And to me, Jay, I look at voting for the Hall of Fame as a super big privilege. And it's an honor to get a chance to vote for the Hall of Fame. And I've never liked the blank ballot. If you don't feel like you could put anybody on the ballot, then you shouldn't be back as a voter, in my opinion. That's part of the responsibility. You've covered the sport, you know the game well enough, and you can't tell me that there's not at least 4 to 5 to 10 people you'd want to put on the ballot. Give me your take on people mailing back blank ballots, and should they even be allowed to vote again for the Hall?
I don't love it, but I understand. I understand there are times when you want to send a message, and for a lot of people, their message, looking at these guys, was feh. It's I think that in this case, it mostly had to do with stopping Schilling and Bonds and Clemens from getting any traction. Would it have mattered if half of those ballots had Todd Helton and Scott Rowland and Andrew Jones on it? Not really. I mean, if those guys, the people who sent those ballots back blank didn't want to see Kurt Schilling inducted, I think, first and foremost. There was a lot to protest about Kurt Schilling, and I understand it. I think that it's frustrating when you've got when you get blank ballots and there's 12 candidates and a lot of people are trying to figure out which 10 they're going to stick on.
Yeah.
But this year that wasn't the case. We had the lowest share of votes per ballot since 2012, just under 6. Six per ballot. So this was sending a different message than before, I think.
Let's get to Schilling for a minute, because the truth is, as a player, he was money, especially in the postseason. And he had that peak from 96 to 04 where he was as good as anybody in the game, durable, gutsy, took the mound. And I think I saw 5-0 with a sub-2.0 ERA in elimination games. So you could see that one of the great postseason pitchers of our time. Now, since retiring, there's two personalities. There's the Kurt Schilling as a pitcher and a ball player, and then there's the Kurt Schilling that we've all now seen thanks to the rise of social media and some of the platforms that he's been given. And I get the character clause. I do 100% understand it, and I understand why people would not vote for him. But when you look at Cooperstown and you see some of the old timers that are in, and some of the issues that they had off the field, and some of the things they're associated or alleged to be associated with, is there a double standard where you're not going to put Schilling in because of his behavior after his career, but others that are in that could have done everything from been part of the Ku Klux Klan to, allegedly being involved in assaults and kills and other things like that. I mean, Jay, you give me your take, because you are the foremost, Cooperstown guy that we talk to on this show and in the industry. Do you feel there's a double standard?
Well, look, I think it's very difficult to expect that, to first of all, the character clause did not come into existence until 1944 or 45. Mm-hmm. By the time that it was created, Ty Cobb and Cap Anson and several other Rogers Hornsby, those people were enshrined. The character clause was not created to put basically to keep people out of the hall under Judge Landis's conception. It was basically designed to reward people of high character who he felt should be in. Now, Landis spent his entire 24-year tenure upholding the color line. To me, that thing's on shaky ground. That said, I don't think that we have to be bound by adhering to the low standards of the past. I think that, particularly when you talk about things such as, domestic violence, PED usage, I understand where voters are coming from, especially domestic violence. I mean, that's, 5 candidates on this ballot have been credibly accused of it. Only one of them actually, went so far as to have a resolution of a case, and that was Andrew Jones, who pled guilty. But this is an issue that touches all of us. Usually, only a couple of degrees of separation, away. And I can understand why somebody would take it more seriously now, especially with the Me Too movement, the examples that several people have set and coming forward, things like that. And so, but we've never seen a candidate accused of anything on the order of what Omar Vizquel was accused of mid-candidacy. So people gave that a lot of weight, and that stopped him in his tracks. He fell only a few points, but he fell about 13 points between in terms of the published ballots before the revelation and the published ballots after. I think there's a lot of soul searching going on, I think, among the electorate, and it's an untidy resolution. And I think that Bonds and Clemens are probably hosed because of the entrenched dissent against their PED allegations. We still haven't seen a single player disciplined for PEDs get elected yet, and even some with more connections that date to the pre-testing era. So I guess the voters want cleaner candidates, and you have to go further down the ballot to find any that fit that bill.
You look at Schilling's letter yesterday that he put on Facebook and asked to be removed from the ballot for his final year. He brought up his wife battling cancer and what he's dealing with there and all the stuff he's been getting from fans over the years. You tell me, did you feel any compassion for Schilling whatsoever when you read the letter on Facebook?
I didn't read the whole letter. TLDR. I don't really care what Kirk Schilling has to say. Look, he asked out. I think that the Hall has said it's going to consider. I think the BBWA feels that that's that is a breaking of a rule. I think what he's trying to do is he's turning himself into the victim here. It's a Bush League move. He does not want to accept the consequences for his behavior. Put him back on the ballot. Let's see his share fall next year as people reckon with his support of the January 6th insurrection. Look, I relish the day when we can go in a whole election cycle without talking about Kirk Schilling. I really do. But I do not want to mistake my lack of sympathy for his plight regarding the Hall of Fame with any commentary as far as his family and the situation of his wife, who is going through chemotherapy. I mean, that's a whole other matter. Yeah. But Kirk Schilling has brought all of this on himself. If he doesn't get into the Hall of Fame, that's his goddamn problem, not mine.
All right. I'll roll through. Here is Jay Jaffe. You can follow him on Twitter at J_Jaffe. Check out his work at Fangraphs.com. I'll leave you with this before we get to some of the baseball moves. I've heard some analysts think that the Hall of Fame for baseball is more of the Hall of Very Good, than it is the Hall of the Immortals. I saw you roll your eyes just now when I said that. Do you think that the standards, the bar has been lowered over the last 15, 20, 30 years, or do you feel it's still pretty consistent with, the players from the first, 60, 70 years of the game?
Well, if you look at the history of the Hall of Fame, the standards were lowered in 1945 and 46 when the Veterans Committee elected 20 people, many of whom were well below even the standards of that by which we judge Hall of Famers today. Um, a massive share of Hall of Famers, about 3 times the rate of the last 30 years, are in the Hall of Fame from the 20s and 30s, an era of high offensive statistics. If anything, we've gotten more stringent in our standards. The thing is, the size of the major leagues has doubled, but we're electing fewer people. There was we just had a flood of 7 years, 22 candidates going in, but via the writers. But that's making up for a long stretch of very minimal action by the voters. So I think that if you study the statistics, we're still not being nearly as generous as generations past. And you can't tell me that the standards are lower. I've got the numbers that will tell you otherwise.
You think next year with A-Rod and Ortiz going on the ballot, do you think we see anybody getting in next year, or could we possibly see another shutout pitched?
It's entirely possible we'll see another shutout. I mean, look, I think that there's going to be a movement to elect David Ortiz, but he's got PED connections too.
Mm-hmm.
It's all bets are off. I don't know how this is going to unfold yet. I think Scott Rowland, who got almost 53%, is too far away to get in. I think Schilling is going to have a setback. I don't know, unless there are a number of voters out there who have been withholding their votes on Bonds and Clemens until year 10 as a way of exacting some small amount of punishment, or the appearance of A-Rod and Ortiz causes people to rethink where they draw the line with regards to PEDs and voting. I think it's very possible we're in for another shutout.
Wow, that's pretty wild when you start to think about the potential of what could happen a year from now. We'll have a lot of time to talk about that. By the way, in your opinion, should Billy Wagner be in the Hall of Fame as a closer?
He's a candidate that I support, and I'm gratified to see that he is moving towards 50%. I think it's 46% this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's looking at a year 9 or 10 election. And he's the best reliever outside the Hall of Fame. And when you look at the way that the guys who might overtake him, like Craig Kimbrell and Kenley Jansen, have really struggled in the last couple of years, it could be a while before we see another one. So I think it's Billy Wagner or bust. I think a lot of people have become convinced on him that and I'm pleasantly surprised about that.
Give me your thoughts on JT Realmuto to the Phillies, as well as George Springer to the Blue Jays. The Jays have been very busy, and also hearing rumors that Trevor Bauer could end up in the Mets rotation.
Oh boy, that's a lot. Realmuto, look, he's an excellent player. It's tough to make a long-term investment in a catcher, but I think if you're gonna, it's somebody with his profile who doesn't have quite the mileage on him that that a more hard, a guy who came up through high school and the minors catching would have on him. The Phillies really had to do this. They've been moving backwards the last few years despite spending a lot of money. I think he would have been a great fit with the Mets. I think he would have made more sense with the Mets than some of the other free agents they were considering. But once they signed James McCann, who I don't think that deal's really much to write home about, but that closed that off. As for Springer, I think that one makes a lot of sense. The Blue Jays need a center fielder and a big bat there. They're a coming team. They're going to be a lot of fun. The question is whether they have the pitching to really hold up, contend for a playoff spot. But I like that move, at least in the short term, for them. What was Trevor Bauer, the Mets? I cannot stand that guy. I would hope that there was a planet out there that would have a league that could sign Trevor Bauer. I don't even want to inflict him on Japan or Korea. He's a noxious presence. Um, but I mean, look, he's a good pitcher. He won the Cy Young this year in a short season. He has never put together a full 30 start season of anywhere close to that caliber. I think he's a risk. I think he's a liability as far as fan bases are concerned, based on his own social media feed. Um, he has encouraged a lot of bad behavior from his followers, and that to me is really distasteful. And he's just so disingenuous about the way he handles that. Um, but the Mets. I mean, I think their rotation is already looking pretty well shored up. I'm not sure that spending the money on him is the best way to proceed.
Jameson Taillon to the Yankees from the Pirates. Do you like that deal for New York?
They've bet a lot on upside. They've got four guys, four rotation candidates who combined to pitch a total of 1 inning last year. And Luis Severino won't be back from Tommy John surgery until maybe middle of the year. But between him, Taillon coming back from Tommy John surgery, Domingo Germán coming back from a suspension, and Corey Kluber throwing all of 1 inning last year and dealing with injuries for the last 2 years. You're banking a lot on upside there, and I really thought that they made a mistake in letting Masahiro Tanaka get away, because you really needed those bulk innings in the middle of the rotation from a guy like that who's just reliably shows up every time, even if the performance is has some inconsistencies to it. He'll be missed, but Taillon was overall number 2 pick of the draft several years ago. Had really shown signs of living up to that. I think he and Garrett Cole will be a great combination. They know each other from the Pirates, and Taillon is a hard worker and just a really by all accounts is a good dude, and I think he'll fit in well in New York.
You've got so much content up on the website for the Hall of Fame. I'd be remiss if we didn't even mention the fact that you also wrote about Don Sutton and Hank Aaron over the last week. And let's hope for now, Jay, we're done talking about Hall of Famers that we lose. It's been a rough 10 months.
4 weeks in a row of losing a Hall of Famer, and ones that really all were close to my heart. The Hank Aaron one was a real blow. I was an honor to write something about him and to dig into his history and just and discover things that I didn't know about him, and remind people that he was more than just the home run king.
Yeah.
He was a genuine hero on and off the field, and really I think as good an example of picking up the baton from Jackie Robinson, and trying to make this country a better place.
Before we get to Jay's beer pick of the week, I'm going to give you one of my old favorites today, and I'm dusting this beauty off because I have a can of it. This is the Vanilla Porter from Breckenridge, and I am a big fan. I love this beer, Jay, and it's probably because it really gives you that perfect vanilla taste. You got the roasted malts with the vanilla checking in at 5.4%, so it's a nice porter to enjoy, and have one in the fridge, and thought that since I'm still in porter and stout season, I'd break that out for you as we get ready for your beer pick.
Nice. I've not been seeing any Breckenridge or Great Divide or some of those beers from the middle of the country in our area. The local crafts have crowded them out, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but it does kind of change the picture compared to what we were talking about a few years ago. For me, I went back to my Hall of Fame Election Day staple. I was able to secure a fresh can of this in short order because I knew where to look. And so it's Arrogant Bastard Ale. I will turn this around and show you the picture on screen. It is now available in a tall boy can.
Oh, nice.
As you can see there. Bitter as hell. Oh man. This one packs a punch, and it's 7 point something in terms of its ABV. I have been drinking Arrogant Bastard Ale on Hall of Fame Election Day going back to, I want to say, at least 2000s, the first decade of the 2000s, somewhere 07, 08, 09. I had maybe a year or two there where I couldn't get it. Last year I got a not so fresh can. This year I got a little bit more proactive and was able to find one at a pretty reliable little deli that has a great craft section.
Have you had the Bourbon Bastard before?
Oh yeah, I don't see that very often here, but I have had it. The variants on arrogant bastard, like double bastard and bourbon bastard, are those are good stuff.
Absolutely right. Well, Jay, terrific conversation as always with you. Appreciate everything, and look forward to having you back with us again next week.
All right, sounds great, Steve. Thank you.